Welcome to Conversation 473. Rolanda is here, and of course, Kalistra Pitaka has not been with us for the last few broadcasts. So we hope Pitaka is doing well. A lot of things have been happening as we speak. The Minister of Education is giving a national address. She is speaking about the reopening of school. That is happening in a matter of days. School will reopen. um, a staggered approach, as they said, not all of the children being back in the classroom at the same time. Also, yesterday, Gregory Bowen gave a news conference and spoke about Grenada's oil and gas prospects. Uh, he also talked about construction projects. He also talked about construction projects around the country that are rolling out a commercial complex being tendered now for St. Andrew in the town of Grenville, and a few other things happening. The government hoping, I suppose, that the construction sector can create a boost in our stalled economy that's been suffering so much from the impact of coronavirus. So those are some of the major topics that developed since the last time that we were here on Monday night, Rolanda.
Yeah, how was your day today, Kalistra?
Good, good.
Yes, I went to a meeting today for farmers, bringing coconut farming in Grenada. It was very, very interesting. It was great to see the young man that was carrying out the um, the program. There was so much enthusiasm that it was great. It was great, but it was sad. I mean, there are people, Grenadians are really wanting to get back into agriculture. I think people realize they cannot depend on anyone else but themselves. So it was good to see that. Kalishwa, you take over. There is something a noise in the background, so I could tell them to turn it off. So I'll let you go
Well, I
ahead.
mean, certainly, the go ahead, go ahead. The fact that we depending on others really should not be a factor for us, whether it's the agriculture sector um, or any of the other areas of providing employment for ourselves and helping the economy to grow. There are a lot of actions that we can take
So
outside of
who are we
depending
taking
on
ahead?
government. I think one of the reasons why government seems
That's
to have
Russ.
such a stranglehold on us and on our lives is because we continue to look towards the government for help. Something like coconut farming, we don't really need the government for that. Producing sufficient coconut to make coconut oil, which is a big market right now, is or to provide poultry feed. Those are things that one may not necessarily need any assistance from the government to do. We have a budding poultry industry, and certainly if we have enough of the coconut product feed for them, the farmers will buy it. I remember the struggles we went through during the COVID lockdown for the farmers to get imported feed that caused a major crisis in the poultry industry. So there are a lot of, I think we've been encouraged into dependency a lot, and the governments have made us believe that we can't do certain things without their assistance and without their involvement. But obviously, that is not really the case. You know, maintenance of law and order, yes, but really, what other purpose have we seen government serve for us over the past decades in Grenada? What we have achieved is simply by the will of the people and the strength of the individual Grenadians, really. And if we can do more as a people, as individuals, we certainly would be in a better place. That's my view on the situation. But I'm not hearing you. Is your microphone muted? I'm not hearing your audio. Rolanda seeming to have some technical difficulties there with audio. This is Conversation 473, of course. Another big development coming up. I was very surprised that the Minister of Infrastructure, Communications and Works, Gregory Bowen, giving a news conference on Tuesday.
I'm back on now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. So I was talking about the oil situation, the oil and gas situation. Some very, very disappointing comments from the Minister of Communications, Infrastructure and Works, Gregory Bowen, yesterday, Tuesday, when he gave a news conference, that up to now, since 1997, we have been attempting to take advantage of our natural resources, our oil and gas resources. And as of yesterday, still no definitive answer from government on what is going on with oil and gas. We have an agreement with Trinidad. Trinidad has agreed to take all of our gas, but we've got these deals, a deal with the GPG and so on. And what we hear about is that a lot of money has been spent to explore and to drill, but no information on the details of the contracts that government has signed with the exploration contracts that they've signed. No information on an estimated time when Grenada can actually begin to earn revenue from the oil and gas resources. One of the interesting things that the minister said yesterday was that we finally discovered that we don't have much oil potential. What we have is gas potential. Took us a really long time to find that out, and this is the announcement. So I don't know if we really don't have oil at all, but this is what the government is saying, that we have more gas than oil.
Well, for the election, what did the government say we had? Was it gas or oil? What did?
Well, it was oil. Oil is what they announced, but obviously that announcement made at the election time. We all know now, and some of us knew then, that it was just a gimmick. Some people bought into it and believed it, but obviously it was just a gimmick, not different. It's a gimmick similar to what Dr. Clarice Modeste Cowan pulled off in St. Mark when she sent bulldozers to um, act as if they were about to start a project on the land that has been the site of the poultry fiasco and the shrimp farm fiasco. On the day before election, she actually sent heavy equipment up there to do work on the site so that people would believe that a project had actually started. And the day after election, nothing was happening again. And this is something that has deeply offended people of Victoria. This is something that people complain about. So the announcement about having found oil and making it seem like earning revenue out of this was an imminent situation, was simply an election gimmick, which is unfortunate that the natural resources of the people of Grenada being used in such a manner. But up to now, still no, the closest, the most hopeful thing he said was the deal with Trinidad, that they would take that, 2 wells, Nutmeg 1, I think is the name of the well, was sunk, and somehow there are 2 wells out there. But up to now, we don't seem to be bringing up anything, and the latest is that Trinidad has requested all of our data on the oil on the natural resources that Grenada has. I'm assuming that Trinidad would need that if they are going to be the ones harvesting our gas, as the agreement between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and the government of Grenada says.
So what happened with the? I thought we had
a lot about doing.
I thought we had the Russians. What happened to the? What happened to? How did Trinidad get into it? I thought it was the Russians that was doing the drilling for us.
Well, the Russians have an exploration license, and by the way, the minister said that while we have not brought up even one container of gas or oil or anything like that, the company with the exploration license was good enough to give Grenada $20 million in the treasury. Heaven knows what we gave them in return in terms of rights for that $20 million. As he himself said, it's unusual that somebody with an exploration license would pay you even before they've started any kind of production. He admitted that. But somehow Grenada was able to squeeze $20 million out of them. And I'm assuming there was some kind of reciprocity with that, that is most likely not in the best interest of the Grenadian people if the history of this government is anything to go by. But yes, Grenada did sign an agreement with Trinidad and Tobago to, because they already have the infrastructure, they already have the production infrastructure to process our gas.
What did you think of this new project that the Honorable Mr. Bowen was speaking about last night, sorry?
Which one? He spoke about a few. He spoke about the complex, the commercial complex in Grenville. That's coming up. He also spoke about, but he spoke about all of the road projects and so. Are you referring to the Grenville project, the commercial?
I'm referring to the Grenville project and the Chinese project. Or at the moment, let me tell you where I stand, Kalistra. I am so confused at the moment, and I'm sad to say I am embarrassed by some of the things that's been going on. I'm very, very embarrassed by it.
Welcome to the club.
You know, it seems like I cannot keep up. I am so embarrassed and by lots of things that's been going on and what's been hearing. When you hear that the Chinese can come and invest 20% of the project, if I am right, if I am wrong, correct me.
Yeah, it's and 20, under the CBI, 20%, yes.
20% under the CBI. And the Grenadian would have to pay for the rest. And I came in here.
No, it's not. It's not that. No, not that the Grenadians would have to pay for the rest. It's 20% investors who are coming in. They have to have 20% of the project cost, and now they would go out there and raise the rest of it in order for them to get the go ahead for the project to be able to raise money on the international market. They have to have 20% of it. This is what the regulations say.
And who is standing guarantor? Who is going to stand guarantor for that? Is the Grenadian government going to stand the guarantor?
No,
because if somebody is going to raise,
it's not that kind of arrangement. This is a citizenship by investment program. So the investors are coming in and they are going to be raising money from outside investors, investors from anywhere. So I suppose they'll be doing the passport deals and that kind of thing and getting people to invest in the project. Charles Lew already pulled together investors and absconded with the money. He raised millions of dollars in the name of Grenada and in the name of Grenada's passport, and is currently under investigation. I think he's hiding somewhere in China or somewhere. Under investigation, criminal investigation for fraud, and so countless charges of fraud by the U.S. government. And Charles Lew being one in a long line of people who have done this. And in fact, in the Mount Hartman, that property there has been used by people, by foreigners on different occasions to raise monies and dissipate. Years ago in the 90s, guarantees were actually signed. I mean, I think you came into contact with the name Miller when Michael Batiste did his letter. Government actually signed a guarantee for this guy. He borrowed money and disappeared. This is money that the government of Grenada has to pay back, because if you sign as a guarantor on a loan for me, then and I default and I can't be found to pay, then you would have to face the liability. And so what is happening now? The project, $2.9 billion. It seems to be the same project, the same thing that they are going to be doing, except that now the investors have changed, and no word yet. I tried to get interestingly, the Minister of Works did not know, coming out of a cabinet meeting from Monday, and the announcement having been made by government that new investors were involved now, still did not know the name of the investors who are going to be taking over the The head of the CBI program did not know when I interviewed him yesterday, day before, and the minister did not know when I asked him the question at the news conference yesterday. So I'm not really sure what's going on with this. How we've got an investor announced by government officials that nobody seems to know who it is.
I mean, that's what tonight I'll be speaking as your audience. I'll be asking you the question. I mean, how could you be a government entering into such a big, huge project and nobody knows who the investors are? Government ministers, it wasn't announced to the Grenadian people that, this person is going to come in and invest this amount of money.
Well, I mean, one of the things that government did with the CBI program was to go into the parliament and put a law in place that you to make it illegal to disclose the country of origin and the identities of citizens, people in the CBI program. So even if you ask this, they can just throw this back at you. A lot of it is in secrecy. A lot of the things that this government has done in the name of the Grenadian people, they've done in secret. Even going back to the oil deal situation, when GPG seems to have gone bankrupt or run out of money and needed an investor, and the Chinese company is said to have bought over the exploration license, but government refused to say who bought over the exploration license. Now, this is national resources, and you would think that when government is signing confidentiality clauses and so that they, I still don't understand why it is that business that the government is conducting needs to come with confidentiality clauses, simply because everything that the government does is supposed to be transparent. And signing a confidentiality agreement with people who are doing business with the people of Grenada seems to be a bit strange that they would do things like that. But
because if I am going to get an investor coming into my business, I have to disclose everything. FIU wants to know where the money is coming from. Is it legit? I find it difficult that that the government can get away with it, that it's all top secret. I would have thought people that is going to invest in Grenada, they would lead by example, that it would be clean money, business people that of good standing, the money are genuine, and it would be something they would have been very proud of, to say that these business people are investing. It seems to me everything seems to be undercover. This is very worrying. How do we, because and investing all that money, when people invest all that money into a country or into a place, they want something back. I know, like the Russians, nobody wants that type of money. Nobody wants dirty money in their country because of what it brings with it. I mean, it was an embarrassment when this man was, Charles Lew was arrested in America, and Grenada name was all over the place. And to hear that he is back, it's worrying. It's very, very worrying. When I came over,
I'm not sure if Charles Lew is back. All right, his name is being associated with the Grenlec deal, but the minister yesterday, when asked by another reporter whether Charles Lew was involved, he actually dodged the question and answered something totally different and avoided the question. I wanted to follow up, but where I was, my battery died, and so I had to pull out of the news conference. But it was a question that required a follow-up, that the reporter needed to say, Minister, he did not answer that part of the question, because the part of the question was, is Charles Lew involved in the negotiations for the sale of Grenlec?
So he did not. So he did not lose. He did not lose his passport. He did not lose his citizenship.
You see, it's not confirmed. Okay, it's a rumor. I have not had any information that says for sure, for a fact. I haven't seen any documentation or the people I called who may know if Charles Lou is doing business here at the moment either were not willing to say or did not know. So I was not able to get any confirmation on this because I tried. So even the minister yesterday would not, dodged it, which made me begin to wonder whether or not Charles Lou actually really is in the mix. Because Gregory Bowen is an intelligent man, and to say he didn't understand the question that a reporter asked would be far fetched. And the way the way he dodged the question and pretended that something else was asked made me think that it was a question he did not want to answer because the answer would not have been good for the people. But it's widely believed in certain circles that Charles Lou is doing business here again, is involved in a Grenade deal. Whether or not he's involved through the back door with the project that he got, the investors brought accusations of fraud against him on. Whether or not he's still involved in the Hartman project through the back door, I don't know. I am trying to very hard to get some information on the company that's involved. So far, over the last 2 days, I haven't been able to.
One of the things as well, again, that today I was speaking to someone that worked in agriculture and they haven't been paid, for last month. And I cannot understand that we are receiving, there is just so much money being spoken about. 20 million here, 10 million. And then when times to pay workers, they don't seem to have any money. I've spoken to someone that was become a pensioner 2 years ago. And up to today, he hasn't received any pension. And he was told that there are people, since 2012, people die and don't even get their pension. And I cannot understand where I keep saying, where are the money going? Where is all this money?
Well, I mean, all this money, there are places where the money is going. We've got a health sector to maintain every month. We've got schools to maintain every month. We've got roads that need to be fixed. We have a very large wage bill. The government has a very large wage bill. Apart from the public officers, a lot of people brought in on contracts and so on. And the size of the public service exploded over the last several years, that everybody who did a favor for the government got repaid either with a project that was being paid for out of the treasury, or with a job that was being paid for out of the treasury. So a lot of campaigning done with the funds from the consolidated fund, the house repair program, governing people. It's millions being spent to provide plywood and galvanize to further ghettoize the country all over the place. These little wooden houses that don't do anything to help with the dignity of the poor of Grenada, and all of those things paid for out of the treasury. The welfare programs, things need to be paid for, and they are being paid for. So in terms of the money that makes it into the treasury, this is how it's used. But
do you think we need to start, maybe go back to the drawing board, because things are not, obviously things are not working.
We have a big debt as well, Rolanda. We have a very huge debt paying man. This particular government, during a previous tour of duty, would have borrowed a lot, borrowed a lot of money and raised the debt. In 1995, they came in when Grenada had restored creditworthiness. I mean, people up to today talk about what George Brizan had accomplished with the homegrown structural adjustment program, where Grenada, we were in a very bad way, our GDP to debt ratio, and we were able to fix that. Grenadians went through some very tough times on the structural adjustment with the NDC of 1990 to 1995. We paid the price for a creditworthy nation, and then because of the hardships that people went through, the NDC lost the election. The NNP came into power in 95 and simply just borrowed like there was no tomorrow. they borrowed, they signed guarantees, so people who ran away with the money and all of this got added into the debt, and now we are in a position here where our debt is at 2 point something billion dollars that we owe, and our public service, I think it's 200 and something million dollars is a wage bill. So we have all of the debt and the wage bill. Those two are like the millstones around our necks, our collective necks in Grenada, and that's like a real pressure on us being able to afford to pay for the more important things that the country needs.
I also heard someone said, or speaking to me, they came into work and they said their daughter graduated from school, and they couldn't afford to even buy the child the graduation ring. And this was sad, you know.
Well, you don't really need a graduation ring, do you?
What if your friend, when Zizi and Acha
you need good
says
grades,
to
you need good work ethics. You don't need a graduation ring.
yeah, but you know,
Graduation
if
rings are
if
extra.
Acha wants his graduation ring, you know, I'm sure if he did very well at school and he said, "Mom, you know, I am, you know, I did fantastic grades, you know, they did really well." As a parent, you think, well, you know, you will reward them. I think if I,
Well,
you
I would,
know,
but you
it's a
would, yes, but
reward, isn't it?
I wouldn't whine about it if I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, but a child, you could, the mother couldn't afford it, not because she didn't work, it's because she didn't get paid. You
She
know,
works with the government.
she worked to the government and she did not get paid. You know, so she promised the child that she was going to have a ring and she didn't get paid. As I said, you know, this is very, very sensitive. At the moment, I find things are so sensitive because you don't really, with politics in Grenada, if you speak about it, people think, or if you disagree with certain things, people think it's because you are opposed to the government. And they have this idea like they think the government is there for thy kingdom come. You know, they don't realize government are there for a term or 2 terms, and then they move on. We look for the next new party, a person, a leader that is coming through and see what they have to offer. But it seems here that it is just so sensitive that people just do not want to speak about it because of the backlash and the victimization that you know, people are going through.
Well, that is changing. That is changing. In the I think coronavirus has given us back our voice, and people are speaking. People are speaking, and people are showing their frustration and their disgust at what's been happening in the country. I think what people are afraid of is um, getting involved in politics because they understand how you get kicked about if you get involved in politics, or if you seem to be getting involved in politics, the way they kick you about and make up stories and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people are afraid of that. And then of course the culture of victimization was created and encouraged, particularly under the NNP. Um, but I think people are beginning to get over that. In the last few months, I get the sense that people are getting over that. People do not fear the almighty Dr. Keith Mitchell anymore. Maybe it's because they're seeing his age showing on him, or maybe because they realize now, we have nothing left to lose, and that if we don't speak up, it's going to be the end of our children and every generation to come, or whatever is the reason. But I find that, it's not been a long time now, but recently people have been,
Maybe it would be nice to have a program to speak about all the good things that the NNP did. You know, I'm sure they have big things that have been good.
Well, electrification. The NNP brought electrification. When the Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell was the Minister of Works, he did a lot of work to bring lights to a lot of communities where there was no light and thing. I think he chased all the larger bless that were wrong because he brought lights into all kind of, electrification. That is something that he was behind. He did that, but not as prime minister. He did that as a minister of works under a different prime minister. When that started. But what else? IT. He talked a lot about IT, but we are still very backward in the region, Grenada, in terms of IT. And in terms of having it reach all of our children and have all of our new generations now having great access and using IT for the development of the country. We haven't done that. So let's see what else. What else? I don't think that program will be a very long program.
Wow. It's well, it seems like you.
If ridiculous debts to GDP is a good thing, then we can talk about that. If destroying the environment for the sake of building hotels is a good thing, then we can talk about that. If expanding the public service beyond what the country can afford and beyond what is prudent is a good thing, then we can praise him. What else? If creating a very strange arrangement with our oil exploration and our natural resources is a good thing, then we can praise him. If having schools run down and in poor condition around the country is a good thing, then we can praise him. If having the worst set of roads here. Oh, by the way, he did fix a lot of roads, but he did not do that with the future in mind. We spent a lot of money fixing roads, but we repaired the roads and kept them at the same size. So Grenada has grown. We have a whole bunch of vehicles on the road now, and the road cannot accommodate the growth of the country. And in government, as a leader, you have to have vision. You have to look 30 years down the road. You cannot look 5 years down the road. And I think that the Prime Minister is a kind of 5 years down the road guy because it's all about winning the election for him. And so our roads, for instance, never got developed to suit the time. When we were doing our roads in the late 80s and 90s, and we did not build for 2020 and we did not build for 2025 and 2030. We did not build for that. So now, our roads are still narrow, accidents are happening, and so on. So, I would like to praise the government, whichever government, but nothing really comes to mind. The only thing that comes to mind is the amount of work that George Brizan did to develop agriculture and to reduce the debt burden of the country. But this was George Brizan, and this was the NDC, and this was a lifetime ago. So,
Well, everyone is speaking now that
if attracting all kinds of crooks and strange people to do business and wreck the name of Grenada is a good thing, then we can praise him too.
Everyone is saying that the Prime Minister is getting old, and they think he does not want to run anymore. Who do you think in the NNP that will you think that would be a good leader for that side?
It would just be more of the same. He's groomed them all. They've spent a long time at his feet with him totally in control of what happened and what's going on. So I think he said sometime that the next leader of the NNP is going to be female. The women in that party, they have not impressed me.
No, but I am not impressed. I am not impressed by the if Dr. Keith Mitchell was to resign from the NNP, and maybe I shouldn't say that, I may be victimized. If he was to resign, I personally cannot see anyone there I can support. If there was an election today, Callistra, say we had to call an election, and at the moment is NNP and NDC we have got, who would you vote for? In the morning, there was an election, we had to vote. We had to vote.
I think there's something in the law that says you can't ask me that, isn't there? It's a difficult choice. There are difficulties with both options. I am not convinced that the NDC has gotten over the quarrels, the internal quarrels, and I certainly know, I'm convinced that the NNP must stand down and give the country some room to breathe. Um, you know, so it's a difficult choice, and it might be one I have to make just purely on heart when I walk into the polling booth. But if we were to call an election, and you say like 6 weeks from now there's an election, he calls a snap election to take advantage of the situations that exist now. Or even not, even if we were on the normal times and he called an election now, 2.5 years, 3 years after that last election, they would still win again because the NDC is not ready to go to the polls.
Brian Nicholas, he said the NDC, he said both parties practice same old politics. We need new voices, new blood. Brian, who would you vote for if there was an election called in the morning? It would be interesting to see, how people feel. People are calling for a new, Brian said we need new voices, new blood. But there don't seem to be any people are talking. A lot of the young people, a lot of the people are saying they want a new party. They want a new. It seems that I have never voted in Grenada. When I left, I was much too young, and the last election I missed it. But this election, I'll definitely be voting. And every time you speak to people, or people speak to you, they are saying they're not voting for NDC and they are not going to vote for NNP. They want a new party, but they don't seem. You go ahead.
No,
I don't know if you are here.
It does a new, unless if there isn't a new party, then we just may have a very low voter turnout, with people not interested in voting for either party. But based on what I've been hearing, I think whenever another election is called, there will be, unless it's called this month, most likely there will be another name, another hat in the ring. So people may, in fact, get their wish and be able to get another option to form the government in Grenada come next election.
Well, Brian hasn't answered us. He said that Brian ran away.
Brian was urging me in the chat to answer the question, but he hasn't answered the question. Brian knows to run away from that question and not answer. For me,
I see Gloria there. Gloria, who is my friend, looking and watching us from UK. She always stays silent. Gloria is the agent for Moncpure in London, and she's doing very, very, very well with the new product. I think better days are coming, Kalistra. I am so determined to. O'Brien, he said, I have never voted in Grenada also, but I'm looking forward. Time to exercise that right. I'm looking forward to time to exercise that right. So am I, Brian.
Brian, talk to me on the chat, on private chat. I have a few suggestions for you for exercising that right.
Would you like to share it with us? You seem to know something we don't.
Well, Kalistra. The people who are in a position to share will share when the time is right. But there's a feeling. I have a feeling the Grenadian people have been asking for it for a long time, and I know that people who support the NNP, for instance, and who want a one-party state, um, have tried to make the idea of a third party seem nonsensical. Like we don't need another party. But the fact is that times change and voids are created, and then someone or something has to fill that void. And I think there's a void in politics right now for a party that makes sense, for a party that has the heart and soul of the days gone by in Grenada when people were engaged and energized in the development of the country, and it wasn't just a hustle about getting food on the table day to day, or getting a piece of plywood from the government, or pandering to the government to get something. That people want to get back to the days where it's just that we knuckle down building the country. And I just have a feeling, the time has come for that. And in history, when the time comes for a great movement to rise, it just rises, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. So I think this is the time. So
But it's
Brian,
but it's
get
but
ready
it's
to be
hard.
part of
It's
the
hard.
great movement.
But it's hard work. I seen with me taking on Spice Mass. I don't think I could take any fight on like that anymore. It is hard work. Gloria said it is lovely to hear strong women views on Grenada. I mean, as Black women, we have always been the one the upfront, but it would be nice to see more women in Grenada politics, given, the NDC, we has a woman leader. I've met Miss Bernadine, very nice lady, very bright. She seems to know what she wants for the island, but it seems that the people are calling for something else. One of the person that I admire very much is Earl Maitland. He's still very young, but I think, there is a lot of young people coming up, Callistra, that they are bright, they have energy, and they're willing. I think this con men that's coming into our country and stealing all our money, I think when these young leaders rise, we will be okay. I mean, even the question your 9-year-old, the conversation he has with you, it just shows that the younger generation people are not going to come and pull the wool over their eyes like they are doing with the ministers. The ministers we have now, Callistra, if something was to happen to our prime minister, who would take over from him before an election is called? Who is his deputy?
Gregory Bowen is the deputy prime minister.
But it seems nobody ever speaks about him. Everything you hear is Keith.
But the deputy prime minister is not it's not a constitutional. I don't think it's a constitutional position. But what they would do, though, if the prime minister can no longer serve as prime minister, they will simply choose someone among themselves and recommend to the governor general, and she would appoint them, give them the instruments of appointment, and have them become prime minister.
And do you think that there is anyone capable? Would you say? Well, I mean, you've been a journalist all your life, and you've been around all the politicians. You know all of them. Who would you recommend? Who would you say, well, this would be a great person if our prime minister decided that he wanted to step down, or he had enough?
Well, it would be any one of them, because it would make no difference. It does not matter which one. It would make no difference at all. Whether it's one of the women or one of the men out of that party, it would simply, there will be no difference in the lives of Grenadians. No change. It would simply be business as usual. They will continue on. When you think of a leader stepping down and somebody new coming on, you think of somebody who is going to change the game for the better, be able to do better, and be more impressive. And I don't think that there's absolutely anyone, when you look among the 15, the 14 cabinet, the cabinet members, not 14 anyway, the number is different, 15 parliamentarians, but when you look among the 15 parliamentarians, the 14 other parliamentarians, there's really no one who is going to operate differently.
We're not hearing anything about, is it Tobias? I haven't heard, where is he still in politics?
Of course, he's the leader of the opposition. He's been making some waves in the parliament. People don't really pay too much attention to what's going on in parliament, and they should, by the way. But he has been, asking a lot of questions in parliament and being a thorn in the side of the prime minister. He got the prime minister very upset. It was so amusing that the prime minister got so upset with him. The sitting before the last sitting that I watched. When the prime minister was going on and on and on, a little bit too much going on about the people who play jab jab, and he said that the NDC was not saying anything, and at one point he says, but he thinks the opposition leader will say something later on, because the opposition leader had in the past been very passionate about people wearing masks and so. And then the opposition leader stood up to speak and did not say a word about the jab jab issue. So then the prime minister stood up to speak again, and he started to complain that Tobias did not say anything, and he was like totally scolding him for not saying anything. But obviously, with the back and forth in the parliament, Tobias was not going to attack the Grenadian people for playing jab jab, whether he agreed with them or not. It was not something that he could have done there in the parliament. Had he done that, he'd be siding with the prime minister. And in this season right now, that's not something that he wants to do. But he's there. I read in the newspaper last week that he might be starting a party. The People's Progressive something. I can't remember the name of it now. But he's probably going to be starting a party. I don't think he's going to disappear from the political scene just like that. I think he will probably try to start a new party. Whether or not he'll make any headway remains to be seen. A lot of people have done a lot of ridiculous things in Grenada and still been able to win, but they've done so with the NNP, which seems to have a strange button on winning, no matter what they do. But on his own, whether or not he can pull a cadre of people together on his own to make any kind of showing in the parliament remains to be seen. You see, Tobias, I think, in my opinion, I've said so to him, I think Tobias took too long to walk away from the NNP. There was a time when he was the national hero, the people's hero, because he appeared to be opposing the government of the party that he was a member of while in parliament. For people, that was fresh and that was new and unusual. And he was showing up himself as really a man of the people who was willing to go against his leader for the sake of the people. And that was some good currency that he could have used. But he stayed in too long, and then he had the comments about the salary. He started complaining about the salary of the ministers, and so, which took away from how genuine people were perceiving him, because then once you start talking about money, it kind of turns people off, and so I think he lost a lot of ground there, and had he left earlier, when the people were behind him,
do you think,
Kalisha, the recover faster? Go ahead.
Would you be surprised if the prime minister was to say, listen, I have been there, is it 3 terms? I've been, been prime minister 4 times. I just want to resign, and I just want to encourage people to start, new parties, and let the people choose, the new government for the future. So you wouldn't find the NNP wouldn't be fighting down the NDC or the new party. The prime minister will say, I have done enough. I've done what I could for my island and my people, and now I am passing it over. Brian was saying, I am looking at the folks from the private sector in Grenada. there are some brilliant men and women in Grenada. There should be some track record of success management skill in the private sector.
Well, I'm sure that they would, they have pulled people from the private sector to join governments. The NNP have some people from the private sector. Nicholas Steele, the representative from Goa, Alvin Dabrio, he came out of the private sector as well. And I think that any new party that's coming forward is probably going to have some bright minds from the private sector as well. Any new party that's going to come forward is going to have a nice mix of strong youths, not just talkers, or people who like to hear themselves speak and love the limelight, but genuine youth leaders who have a feel, a flair for politics, who are intelligent. Because, the times now in politics, you either have to have that kind of grassroots thing about you, or else a great intelligence. Either be able to communicate with the people at where they live, at the level where they live, or else be able to be really smart, and that can impress people. Just to be an average person who doesn't know anything, it's not what, I don't think that's what is going to call for. I think people who don't come with a certain amount of talent to the politics are going to have to depend on giving people money and t-shirts and all that kind of thing.
Drink it. Long ago, all you had to do was drink rum, isn't it? You had to be a good rum drinker to be a politician. I remember growing up as a child, the one politician, the representative, was always drunk, drunk and falling down. But they said that was the reason why they didn't like the NDC ex-leader. What is his name? Because he didn't used to drink rum.
Tillman Thomas.
No,
I think that's a simplistic view. I think Tillman Thomas is greatly liked in the country. A lot of damage was done to his image by the NNP. It's the name of the game. Each side is going to try to strike the killer blow, and a lot of damage was done to his reputation. But within the politics by the NNP to paint him as a bad leader. I mean, it was specific and it was vicious, and it was all in the name of winning and the politics, and that's the name of the game, as I said. Also, because of how bad the people behaved within the party, and all of that, kind of messed up the whole image. But I think Tillman remains today still a very liked and likable prime minister.
And the last leader that resigned, as I say, I'm not into the Grenadian of the NDC. Burke?
Nazim Burke?
Nazim Burke, yeah. Everybody, a lot of people.
The guy who loves to shoot himself in the foot, yeah.
But people seems to have liked him. Grenadians, a lot of people didn't like him, but when you look at what he stood for, he was somebody for Grenada, because I didn't know much about him.
Can we really say that though? Because had he been for Grenada, the NDC may have survived and won again. And we may not have been in the mess we are today, but so I don't know. Most of the politicians who have been on the scene for the longest while, really, it's about ego and personality and power. I'm yet to see a genuine leader who cares about the development of the people. Some of the things that happened when, of course, Tillman Thomas was the prime minister, but Nazim Burke was a very strong force within the government. And look what happened. They did not even realize that they, having struggled since the early 2000s to get into the parliament and winning against such a strong machinery as the NNP and getting into the parliament with the people so totally behind them. And then within the first 10 months of winning the election, the party began the party began to crumble. And responsibility for what happened to the NDC is not at any one person's door. It is on, there were factions and they were all responsible because nobody pulled up short and said, listen, we need to stop here and preserve what the Grenadian people have given us. No one thought about that. Everybody just focused on, it was almost like Cone and Bishop and joint leadership all over again. Everybody wanted something that it was not theirs to have at the time. And all they had to do was stand down, do their jobs, do right by the people, and wait until the next election. Tilman Thomas most likely would have resigned. I think they said it was one term. It would have been one term. They would have sorted it out. But there were too many people who wanted to inherit the seat he had and did not want to wait, and they mashed up the whole thing, and put us right back where we started.
Well, as I said, this, after Corona, I think everybody most people didn't think they was going to survive Corona. They were, sorry. Most people think,
So I think we are actually out of time on the program there. So
sorry. Most people didn't think they were going to survive Corona. So I think, there will be a good change. But something, we are, as I always say, we are one people. We have to just look forward. This next election, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward.
I'm looking forward to it too because something's got to give, as they say.
Brian, you said, maybe, I'm in the private sector. I am, I think we cannot just sit back and just keep quiet, be like sheep and just follow. I think we have to start speaking up more. And, things like the people that is coming in our country, as they say, Black Lives Matter, the people that's coming and investing in our country. I mean, at the back of, there is the stories that I hear. Before we go, we come into an end, a guy came to me, Callistra, and he wanted to know he just wanted to meet the woman that owned Montpelier. And he had a juice company. And this gentleman explained to me that he did every single thing you can think of to open this company. And he said he has spent thousands of dollars. And I think it was about 10 years. And up to this day, he's been blocked. He cannot open the company. I have a young man that makes tea. His tea is just unbelievable, fantastic. And he just been given the run around. It seems like I cannot say it's the government, because small businesses, every government needs small business. That is what keep the economy going. I don't know if it's the people that they put in the offices that hold the offices, but there are people, and I could tell you from experience, that does not want to see small business grow in Grenada. They try to stop the growth. They try, it's only, even I've seen it, I've experienced it, and then people just get fed up. Today, a gentleman was literally crying because, I've seen experience from my cousin that had planted lots of ginger, and the marketing board, I think there was importing ginger. So the imported ginger was cheaper. So he had to take all his ginger and just throw it back underneath the cocoa. And this gentleman was saying to me that when the marketing board, when Bishop and them was there, I think he was saying eggplant and ginger, they used to be exporting. We was standing in the Chinese place in La Sagesse, and he was saying you could have seen eggplant as far as the eye could see, and you could see he was so hurt. But now we have so many young people out there, young men out there, that hasn't got anything to do. You know, they have no land to work, no income coming in. The crime rate will rise because people are going to get fed up. You know, so I heard somebody was saying one of the new hotels, as I was saying, employ 80 people. I've employed 49. So I hope I got, and I didn't get any pat on the back or anything, but you know.
Well, you know,
Ah,
the priorities, the Grenada's priorities are a little off. The things that we focus on, like I said, we're not looking 40 years down the road. We're not looking 50 years down the road. If we were doing that over the last 30 years, if we were looking further down the road during the last 30 years, then as a small country, we might have done better dealing with the coronavirus. I mean, $182 million drop in revenue from the government, the majority of it coming from tourism and SDU. That sums up the situation that we have been in for the longest while. It was just, smoke and mirrors, like a whole magic show. Grenada seemed to be like a whole magic show. Nothing was real. Nothing was based on substance. And coronavirus sort of exposed all of it. And what's got to give? I know Bob is saying. Bob wanted to know, tell us what's got to give in your opinion, and then an alternative to CBI, in my opinion, might be to invite professional people to Grenada and give them citizenship. If they can create an industry defined by government, no charge and no citizenship until they live here for X amount of years. Well, we already do have that situation where people can come and do stuff, and the CBI program is on top of what we already have. If you come to Grenada and you do business, after a while you naturally get your citizenship. The people who own Shipwreck, they came and they did the stores and they employed people, and eventually they got their citizenship. So it's there's a normal path to getting your citizenship while genuinely setting up business here in Grenada. And also, Bob, you were talking about having the professionals come in. It's also an option for increasing Grenada's population so that we have more economic activity. Because certainly we need a larger population, and Grenadians having more babies is not quick enough to deal with that situation. And so one of the things that we need to do is to be able to attract professionals who want to come and live and work here, that we can have, a few hundred more people coming in to live and work in Grenada and so on. And, they can do business even better. But what's got to give, Bob, and welcome to the program. You haven't been on with us for a while, or we were around for a while, Bob. Bob Marish, who is on, and Rolando is one of our fans. What's got to give is that we need people leading the country who are going to tie in and their policies into the needs of the Grenadian people and the direction of the country needs to go. And I think that people are finally waking up and realizing that the direction we're going, there's nobody standing with us on the same road that we want to travel on. And anybody who comes with a map that seems to line up with ours, that they will be the ones that the people follow. So that's it for us tonight on the program, Rolanda.
thank you, Kalistra. It was lovely as always, having a chat with you. Everyone out there, take care of yourself, wash your hands, and make sure we keep that corona well away from us. And hope to see you next on Friday, please God. Thanks for watching.
All right. Good night, everybody.